Hey everybody, welcome to day one, Breakfast with Bob from Hotel West End in beautiful Nice. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Master Spas, SFuels Go Longer, HOKA, Let's Fly, deboer wetsuits, Form Smart Swim Goggles, Zoot Sports, the original triathlon brand, Quintana Premium Plus Sports, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation. To kick off Nice Week, you need to have the 10-time Nice champion, the 6-time Ironman World Champion, the guy that basically address should be 10 Promenade des Anglais. This is Mark Allen. Also, I remember Ironman Hall of Fame, USA Triathlon Hall of Fame, the legend, the grip, Mark Allen. How you doing, bud?
Hey, great to be here. You know, Nice, France. I raced here 10 times, won it 10 times. I don't know how I did that. You know, and actually I was thinking about it yesterday because you texted me and were saying, you know, your name should be on the street sign, Promenade des Anglais, Ali'i Drive.
Yes.
You know, and it's really interesting that we have these two iconic triathlon homes, one on the Big Island of Hawaii, one here in Europe. And they both have these iconic streets that are sort of like the center post of where everything takes place. Obviously, Ali'i Drive with the swim and coming to the finish here, Promenade des Anglais, you know, all the hotels that we have here and just so much history in triathlon that actually started here in 1982.
Well, and what was interesting about that race, originally was supposed to be Monte Carlo?
It was supposed to be in Monaco. And
Monaco, that's right, yes.
Well, you know, Monte Carlo, Monaco.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Princess Grace died in the car crash earlier that year.
Yes.
And so there was a moratorium on any kind of celebratory event, including sporting events, for 1 year. So they're like, where are we going to have it? Well, let's move it to Nice, which actually I think turned out pretty well. You know, to have, it was November 1982 that they had the first event here. And it was over Thanksgiving Day weekend in the U.S. And it was really cold.
I was going to say, it's still, you're dealing with winter. The water had to be freezing.
It was so cold, and it was way before deboer wetsuits or any other wetsuit, you know.
Exactly.
And so I had brought a neoprene hood that I surfed with, and that was all I had. They actually shortened the swim to 500 meters because it was really, really cold. There was snow on the back peaks of the Alpes Maritimes, and you know, I came out of the water freezing, shivering, but I made it, and I was so excited that I made it because I'd had some problems with hypothermia at Malibu.
That was only a couple weeks before.
Yeah, just a couple of weeks before I had to drop out. So I'm in transition area. I look over. Scott Molina is right next to me, and I'm giving him the 2 thumbs up because I couldn't say a word at that point.
You had that hypothermia where you can't talk.
Yeah. And so I put on jersey, riding jacket, tights, and and went out for this amazing ride that was like nothing I'd seen in triathlon up to that point. Partway through the ride, I kind of got hot, and so I stopped and I took off my stuff.
Got off your bike, take your stuff off.
Took off my ties, took off my jacket, and I told Molina after the race, and I said, "Yeah, I stopped," and he's like, "You stopped in the middle of the race?" I'm like, "Body maintenance, dude, come on," you know. So.
That was the race, though, that you were pretty much out of it towards the end, right? Was that the first one, or was that a different one?
That was the second one.
Second one.
The first one actually was a marathon.
Right. Oh, wow.
And it was the first marathon that I had ever run. And Molina was actually in the lead going into the run, and it took about 9 or 10 miles to catch him. And as I was coming up behind him, now Molina was a
220.
224. No, I think 220 marathon.
Okay.
Anyway, a solid marathoner, right?
Yes.
This is my first marathon that I've ever run, and I came up behind him, and I could see he was kind of bouncing, and I thought, boy, he's going to get a lot of pounding on his legs. And my goal was to just run very smooth and flat to reduce pounding impact, because I'd seen how broken down people's legs were in Kona, and so I thought, okay, again, body maintenance. And I came up behind him, and as I passed him, I go, "You're bouncing too much."
You're giving him advice.
Yeah, I'm giving him advice, and he looks over at me, and
thank you, rookie.
Yeah, I could tell he was not happy that I was giving him advice on the marathon. So anyway,
that is funny. But yeah, so that year, you think about it, so October was when your first time in Kona.
Yes.
Right, and that was when you caught Dave during a bike ride, And they knew so little about you. They had your name spelled wrong, right, on the Kairos, Allan.
Yeah.
They knew nothing about you. You catch Dave. Hey, how about we go for a run after this? And then he switches his bike into a bigger gear. You do the same, and your derailleur falls off the bike, and basically your race is over. So you hadn't run a marathon. You had done swim and 56-mile bike.
Exactly.
Pretty much it.
Exactly.
Then you go to Malibu, and Malibu was the first pro race in November of '82. And the water was supposed to be, they said the water was 63 and it was 55, and the swim was supposed to be 1.5, it was 2. I think it's the only time in my life I ever swam past anybody, because your mouth was frozen open during the swim, and we both ended up in the same hot shower room after the swim.
Yeah, as you know, I came from a swimming background,
Yeah.
so I'm very comfortable. I surf, but at one point, my body my muscles stopped working.
Yes.
And I thought I could drown out here, literally. And I was trying to kind of breaststroke and do the elementary backstroke just to get to the transition area. I got to the transition area, and I'm standing there going, "Where's my bike? Where's my bike?" And they go, "It's right in front of you."
I know.
And I realized
Yeah.
there was kind of like this circle in front of my eyes that was completely blacked out, and I couldn't even see.
I didn't see the transition area.
Yeah.
I was standing there, "Where's the transition area?" And I was like, in it. And they're like, "We're taking you to the hot shower room." It was me and you and Jeff Tinley, and we're all just shivering, and that was like a nightmare experience.
Yeah, so coming here, making it out of the water was
Yes.
ecstatic. I went on and won that year, and then fortunately they moved the date to September,
Way
which
better.
is, as you know, where we're having the World Championship here in a couple days.
So you drove the course here,
Yes.
and when you raced here, it was like a 75-mile ride. So you didn't have 112 with a lot of there's like 8,000 feet of climbing in this race. It's going to be a brutal bike course.
Actually, 7,900.
96, yeah.
They actually could have made it over 8,000, but they
7,963. Yes.
Yeah, they cut out one little section that would have added that little bit. They did psychologically. They go, "We can't go over 8,000. We're going to keep it at 7,900." So anyway, I drove the course 2 days ago, and it's almost 40 miles longer than when I competed here. So they go much farther inland, and it actually you kind of go along the promenade. You take a right along the river Var, and then right away after that, there's a left-hand turn that takes them into the climbs. And if you look at the profile on the map
Yes.
on the website, you're kind of like, "Oh, well, it doesn't look like the real climbs yet." It's the real deal right off the bat. Right away, the pitch is enough that they're going to go from really fast aero position to all of a sudden
Standing.
climbing
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything aero. So, and there's just a long climbing up and down, up and down, up and down, and no real major breaks, even through the first 60K.
Right.
And psychologically, I think it's a very challenging course, because the actual farthest point of the course is at 94K. And so just past the halfway point.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally feels like you are going so far out from Nice. And you know that it's a loop course, right? And you're thinking, when is it going to loop around? When do I start to come back closer to the transition area? And so just psychologically, it's very challenging. Physically, very challenging. Kind of long climbing, a little bit of false flat, but still there's a load on your legs, and then some more climbing, and then you do get to kind of like a high plateau that is just stunning. It's you can look around, and there's mountains on both sides, and there's villages on top of every kind of hillside and on these cliffs, and it's historic and iconic and beautiful and green, and anybody who even takes like a nanosecond and looks around, they're just going to go.
Well, and then, so it looks like once you get to the top of that it's like a 35 miles to 70 miles looks rolly. I don't know if it really is or not. But then from 80 to 100, it looks like you're plummeting off the face of the earth. It's like you're going down. Or is it sort of like you go down, then you're climbing and come back up and down again?
Yeah, you start the descent. Once you start the descent, you climb, you descend down, but then it's like, oh, let's throw another climb in here. You have that, and then when you finally really do get it, it's kind of in that last 80K where things start to descend,
right? And
you start to loop back toward the town of Nice here. Even on the last long descents, it's It's not so steep that you're going to be just holding on for dear life. You're actually going to have to be pedaling, and so, but it's also technical.
I was going to say,
there's so many points. There's 180-degree turns, and there's very little stretches where it's like super high speed, if that makes sense. So anyway, people are going to think, oh, I've made it past the steepest part. I'm descending down to the river and down to sea level. You're still going to have to be on top of the pedals, which is really, really challenging. And you're going through small villages, so you have to concentrate. There is never a point on that course where you're just going to be sitting there going, in Kona, you can get into that just that almost meditative state. Long stretches where you're not doing many gear changes. You're definitely not handling the bike. I mean, there's like 2 turns in the whole course, right? Here you do 2 turns in the first
first 5 feet.
5 feet, right? And so I think people are going to underestimate the amount of focus and concentration and amount of time they're going to actually have to be on the pedals in those descents.
Right.
But if somebody is on top of that, and this is where I think anybody who has experience on the course, like if somebody has come here and trained a bunch, if the French guys who live in this area, they know the course. It's not so much can I make up time on the descent because I'm a better descender technically, but more like how can I pace this? So and where can I stay on the pedals? And maybe other guys might be thinking, oh, I don't have to push that hard, and they stay on it. They can make 30 seconds, and then a minute, and then another minute.
Right.
And, it's a kind of course that, if I didn't live here and I'd only ridden it, so let's say once, I would try and at least psychologically latch on to somebody that I know, like, oh, he's ridden this course, he knows it. Somebody like Clement Mignon, who won here, this year. Yeah. Obviously, he knows how to do this course.
He knows how to do this course.
And it's only slightly different from the Ironman France course. So, very. A lot of people were like, "Oh, should I come to Nice? It's not Kona." And I've said to everybody, this is an iconic place. It's very different from Kona. It has its own character, its own culture, its own feel, its own ambiance. But I didn't come here 10 years because it was a B-rated race. I came here 10 years because it's iconic, and it's impactful. It's challenging. It's going to test an athlete with everything: strength on the bike, climbing on the bike, descending, handling on the bike, the ability to run fast, et cetera, et cetera.
Ability to run fast. You've got Patrick Lange, who's run 2:30 in Roth, and he ran 2:30 at in Ironman Israel last year. And the run course seems to be pretty flat. So for someone like that, if he hasn't lost his legs during the bike ride, we could see some fast marathon times.
Well, I think that's sort of the epilogue to all this, because everybody talks about the bike course.
Right.
But you have to do that little thing called a marathon.
At the end of this thing, yeah.
And so if you have not done a lot of good body management and made sure that you have nutrition, which is another thing. If you look on the map, you see the aid stations. They're spaced pretty evenly throughout the course. Well, just because they're spaced evenly doesn't mean that they're equal. Like one aid station might have the same distance to the next one, but the first one you're climbing the entire way. So in essence, you've used twice as much. It takes you twice as long. Twice as much heart rates have taken place. And then you hit the next one, and it's on a kind of a rolling flat. That's going to be a much shorter period of time. So body maintenance is going to be absolutely key. Whoever can run fast is going to have to make sure that they are completely fueled up after that bike ride, which will probably be a good half hour long.
I was going to say, like, people who are used to going 4:10 are going to go 4:30, 4:40.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody goes 4:40, 4:45. That's a good ride here.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So
where normally you'd be out of it if you run it that slow.
And there's a number of guys who have run really fast. The guy that kind of got my attention this year was Denis Chevreau. He won Hamburg. He ran 2:31.
Yes.
Next fastest time was 2:38.
Yeah.
And so that is an element that I think is going to be key for winning this race. What about Magnus?
It's funny. I was talking to Magnus yesterday, and it was interesting because he did the swim, and he had a scale with him, right? And I'm sitting there going, he's probably thinking, I want to know, did I lose any weight during this swim? Because You know, I need to be lean for this bike course. There's a lot of climbing on this, but he also feels that this is sort of a power person's course. It's not, because there's not long climbs that are really steep.
Right.
He feels that this course does suit him, and a lot of people feel it doesn't. And I never doubt Magnus.
Yeah, he's kind of the guy that I'm looking to sort of upset the French contingent, you know, and I give a lot of the French guys a real advantage. Like I said, Clement,
home
you know,
course, yes.
home course. He's won here. You know, Rudy von Berg has won here.
Yes.
You know, you've got Léon Chevalier, who's won. Embrun set a record there.
Yep.
You know, that's a badass course.
It's brutal.
And clearly, he can go the distance. But you have Magnus, who is so meticulous with his preparation. The only catch with Magnus, in my mind, is that, you know, he had an incredibly fast race earlier this year, winning Roth, and the recovery from that has, I think, surprised him. He pitched up at the PTO Open in Milwaukee and dropped out. It's
exactly.
Like,
his body wasn't ready.
Okay, and I spoke with Ben Canute at 70.3 Worlds just you know, a week ago, and he said who also did Roth, and he said, I was shocked at how long it was taking me to recover. He said, I'm finally just now coming around. So Magnus pulled the plug on doing anything after Milwaukee, realizing, wait a minute, close it down, because Nice is going to be something special. So anyway, and then let us not forget, ladies and gentlemen, Jan Frodeno. Do not ever underestimate Jan.
With last race, and really the last time somebody did their final Ironman, right, and won their final Ironman as a pro was you in 1995 when you dropped the mic. You announced beforehand, this is it. I'm going out, and most people come back. You never did, right? That was it. You beat Hellriegel, came back from 14 minutes down, won your last race. What else you have to do? I'm out. And I'm sure Jan wants to do the same thing.
Yeah, and there's something about when you say, this is my final Ironman, this is my final race, it gives you a freedom to really pull something out that you never have before, because there are no more tomorrows.
Right.
There is no making up for something if you go, I can't do it. And so I think, for me anyway, in 95, it freed me up to just go so deep within myself and pull that race out that enabled me to walk away with a victory. Jan's in that same position also. The flip side of that is, however, if you're kind of having a lousy day and you're not feeling good, there's part of your brain that just kind of goes, you know what? I don't need this. I've done it. I've won a gold medal. I've won Kona 3 times. I've won 70.3 Worlds. I've shown everybody over decades what I can do. I don't need this.
My hotel's right there.
There's the hotel.
Hotel's right there.
They have good croissants.
There's air conditioning. You know, and what's been interesting to me, it's been really hot in the afternoons recently here. And you think about Kona and heat. You don't think that much about heat here. But I think there'll be some melting in that bike, in the run, especially after that brutal bike ride.
Well, and the interesting thing about the bike ride, because there is so much climbing, you end up over 3,000 feet. And so for a lot of the bike ride, the elevation will actually make the air cooler. And so you kind of get into this cooler racing mindset, you know, and you're thinking, oh, is this, you're sort of, this is cool and it's comfortable and you're not worried about your hydration so much. And then as you descend back down to sea level, all of a sudden you can just feel the temperature going cocoon, cocoon, cocoon. And then you hit the river, and then you make the left onto the promenade and come back, and you're like, okay, this run's going to be the real deal. Also, you know, there is heat, there is humidity, and another double-edged sword is going to be the crowd. You know, there's 4 loops on the run, and so massive crowds are going to be cheering. And with massive crowds, unless you sort of semi-shut that out, you can go too hard early in the run, and then all of a sudden,
we see that in Kona all the time. That first mile, people are running out of their minds because you're on a lead drive, and then all of a sudden, when you get out to the lava fields up on the Queen K, there's nobody there.
Right.
And it's real easy to go, Uh-oh.
Oops.
Oops, maybe I burned a few matches that I shouldn't have.
Because it's super exciting. People are cheering,
Right.
and you want to put on a good show, and you want to put on a good race. And if you're catching somebody, that's even more motivating. But the person who's going to win this is the one who can sort of go into that internal space a little bit and keep doing their own personal body check and going, is this pace what I can sustain? Is this pace something that I can build off of? Or am I getting caught up in the moment? Because that's going to be a big moment when they get off the bike, because they're going to go through villages on the bike. The entire village comes out. That's the cool thing. People are sitting at the cafes and they're cheering when you go by. But there's a lot of stretches where you're on your own,
right,
and you can kind of dial in, right? But when you come here and you're running along the Promenade des Anglais,
there's no place to hide.
There is no hiding.
No.
It's full of tourists and fans and people cheering.
There's not a lot of shade here either.
No shade.
No shade whatsoever.
Whatsoever.
Yeah. So the one person who I think is intriguing, every year Cam Worf comes over here, comes to Ironman. Basically, he's been racing bikes all year long,
right,
and never has that solid month of training leading in. I think this year he has. And he did the swim yesterday, and and when he did Ironman Nice, I think it was like a week after another Ironman, just to sort of check out the course. And I think he went half effort on the bike. I don't think he was really pushing it, just to see what this thing is like. Someone with that experience on a bike, he could really attack this course and get a nice gap off the bike, maybe.
He will attack it for sure.
Yeah,
he has to. He has to. He doesn't have the run of a Patrick Lange,
right,
let's say, or a Denis Chevreau,
right,
let's say. However, don't underestimate the guys on the bike, the triathletes.
Oh no, Magnus and those guys are.
Yeah, they're solid. Just because they haven't done bike racing doesn't mean that they can't keep up with somebody like Cam.
I mean, there's so many great cyclists here.
Yeah, and Sam is an interesting question. He's had a lot of injuries, races that he was going to pitch up at and then pulling out at the last minute. Here, apparently, I'm assuming healthy and ready to go.
Yes.
But what does that mean, healthy and ready to go? And without the race experience of the year, the season, I think it's very hard. It's hard to come into an Ironman without having some of those build-up races to just get your body used to that rhythm of racing again. Of course, kind of local. He would love to win it. I've heard him say he's.
This is it. This is what
this is it. When I first started looking at the list and thinking who's going to win, how many people are going to be here, and you hear Max Newman's out, and there's some big
Christian,
names.
Gustav.
Yeah, the two Norwegian boys aren't here first and third last year.
Yeah.
However, you actually start sifting through the list and looking at the palmares of each one of the guys, and it's like,
I know,
this field is stacked, and it's the cool thing for me is that there's never been a full distance world championship event on this course. So
never.
Nobody has history of having to take that pressure and the impact of the dynamic of a lot of guys influencing how the race dynamic unfolds, and figuring out how to put it together and how we can win it. So, in Kona we have this long history. So each year you kind of take some of what happened last year and put it onto the predictions for this the coming year. We don't have that
blank
here.
slate.
Yeah, I don't care if you've won Nice 10 times. You've never, when you do it as a world championship, it's a very different beast than doing it when you just have a handful of guys who are world class.
I think what's always separated Kona from the other races is a lot of races you'll have 3, 4, 5 great guys. And everybody's got different motivation. I'm here and I'm sort of training through this one for the next one. Nobody's going to Kona going, yeah, I'm training through this for Arizona or Florida or something like that. Everybody is there who's on the start line is there to win.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for. And that's what you've got here on a course that most people have never raced before against a level of competition they've never seen before. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be pretty special.
Yeah, it's going to be special. There's, you have towns in Kona. You've got Kona. You've got Javi. Yeah. You're gonna, after this year, there's going to be those names of the French villages that they ride through that are iconic. The Promenade des Anglais. People are, if they haven't heard about it, they're going to know about it. And if I was a woman pro, I would be glued to the live stream because I would want to see, how do you win it? what are the things that are mistakes that
Right.
people make?
Yep.
And then how can I take all of that, this 1 year of the men's knowledge, and put it into my training to get ready for my race
For
next year.
I love it. Grip, always such a pleasure, man. And it's always nice to be looking out at either a lead drive or Promenade des Anglais. It's pretty cool to be with
Promenade
you.
des Anglais.
Anglais. Thank
Anglais.
you. Anglais. So you don't pronounce it. Promenade des. So is it day or days?
Day.
Des Anglais.
Promenade des Anglais.
Okay.
Just let it flow.
Let
Let
it
it flow.
Love it. Mark Allen has been our guest again. Breakfast with Bob from the beautiful West End Hotel. Hold on. We will be right back.